Hello there, ladies and gents, and welcome back to another episode of the Lenko Show, where we talk all things health and performance. Today, I'm going to be joined by Dylan John, who is also a podcaster, running a podcast specifically about American football. And we're going to be talking more about the strength and conditioning aspect of training, getting ready for hopefully a season. So if you are a seasonal athlete, if you do play team sports, this is definitely a good episode for you to listen to. But he also has expertise in the area of sports psychology, which is something that I am very, very much interested in. So I'll be digging into his brain and finding out as much as he knows as possible on that front. So loads to look forward to in this episode. Hopefully you get something of worth or value from it. Surely there's always something of value from every episode that we do, but hopefully there'll be something you can apply from either a strength and conditioning training aspect or a psychological aspect, whether it's sport or even just in your own life. So sit back, enjoy the show, and let's get cracking. Cool. Dylan, welcome to the show, my man. Good to speak to you.
Yeah, good. No, it's great. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for doing your own show as it is. I've been paying this as much attention as I can, so thank you.
No, it's a pleasure. And how's life been over the last? What, do we go into the last year, or do you want to go?
Yeah, we'll go because it's been interesting. Like, so for myself, when I heard about COVID, I was in Spain, and I had literally gone there to try and watch my friend play because they'd had imports. So this is the Black Demons. So this was March last year. I tried to get over there to watch them because my friend was playing, and it was just interesting to see how they built the team. And then they had imports and trying to talk to them, how's the experience, and try and learn a bit for the UK. And then we was meant to go down to like on the motorway, and he got a phone and he said, sorry, the Spanish president's going to talk on telly. We need to pull over. And he said, right, national lockdown. Like, this is like the first day, March the 6th, 14th. I was nearly stuck in Spain, and it was like, how am I going to get out? How are we going to get out? What are we going to do? And then come back, and then it was just crazy realizing the whole of Spain was going in a panic mode. And then thinking, like, from this year on, the sort of last 12 months, I was kind of keeping contact with Madrid because Madrid had a higher outbreak of COVID. Like, what are we going to do a month's time? What are we going to do here? What are we going to do here? What are we going to do here? So when I did state lockdowns, I was trying to tell everyone what's going on. Like, this is what's happening in Spain here. Try and pay attention to where we're going to get all of these checks. We're going to get all of these things. Like, trying to be as most prepared for it before it comes to here. And then, obviously, we get back into football. And we start thinking about all social distancing and stuff. And as everyone try their best, but it just is really difficult to be like, okay, make sure you're 6 inches, like 2 foot away. But a drill ago, you were doing like tug of war or something. So you were 2 inches away a minute ago. Now we've got to stick to a protocol. It was a bit like, and then you kept to that, and it was like, right, everyone's got to shut off. And then literally, as everyone probably did, everyone put everything on mute and then waiting for some sort of information to get back into the football.
You know what, that was one of the things I think I remember from it was because it was before we locked down, wasn't it? And that kind of time of year would normally be our pre-season, wouldn't it?
Yes.
And we'd normally do OTAs or organized team activities for people that aren't in the loop.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we were talking about, you've got to do you have to sanitize the balls, like, because obviously
all kinds of
going to be thrown into
it's all kinds of, like, let's be honest, when you go health and safety, it can get really pedantic, get really it can get really silly, because then you, like, my family are a lot in construction, a lot in safety and management and stuff, and we go, if you want to go another level, you go, okay, so you got to sanitize the first down, second down, third down, fourth down pole. You then got to make sure everyone's 6 inches away from that. You could go a whole different level of, like, safety and security if we really wanted to keep things together, but not everyone's going to do that. So then it's like, okay, how do you explain to people, like, keep yourselves to yourselves, but wear a mask? Then people, I don't want to wear a mask because of this. And then people are then going, oh, but you shouldn't wear a mask because of what it does with carbon dioxide. And then, okay, so then you got to have an argument about someone saying it's not for this reason. Then they've got, and it's just all rubbish thing come out. And then it's trying to keep on with all the rules, but what rules are rules? Because you don't really know what like if we get given a parameter, but then we don't know how far to push it, because that's what every coach sort of does. Is you get given, you can only do this much, you can only do this. Okay, well, I'll try and push it as far as I can. Like, it's really interesting to see how the communications come out, and then who applies it, and how's the best way, who's done it the best. So how can we replicate that everywhere? Like, what's been interesting, like the NFL season was really interesting for me in terms of, I thought of it like, to some teams that got basically destroyed with COVID, season doesn't count. I understand Tampa Bay won it, but not every team had the same COVID situation. And then if you look at the ironical part of Tom Brady winning it, well, what state is that? That's a red state. Whose state was that? Donald Trump. If you look at it, it was a blue state, then it come to a red state. It was all like a political sort of situation then come about. I was watching on the NFL, like £900 million was up for grabs. So of course they're going to run it. Then there's no preseason, and it's like we're going to have a load of injuries. Then the teams who can get adjust quickly, and then trying to talk to other coaches and like, what would you do with a situation like that? It's like, well, go with it what you can, but it's tough because it's like the army on the front lines. Like, you're being told, right, your enemy's a different shape, different size. None of the stuff you're using is going to work. We're going to have to just kind of go with sticks and stones and figure out whatever works, isn't it?
That's a good way of putting it, actually.
Yeah.
And I think, obviously, from my perspective as a performance coach, strength and conditioning coach, like, I remember there was an NFL season quite a while ago where the players went on strike.
Yeah.
And then there was a record number of injuries. I think they were Achilles tendon injuries.
Yeah. No, that's what I keep thinking about. Here's a question. Los Angeles Chargers. I don't know what happens or who's in their department. If you look at their injury report for the last 5 years, it's like, I don't know what they must be. I don't know whether it's training or whether it's the weather or whether it's the hydration or something. But like, why is it always their best players going down with an Achilles or a knee? It's like
the LA lifestyle.
It's got to be something, because it's genuinely like one team has it and then the other team has it, but it's like an injury bug. Like, you just got to wait as the season goes on. One team's going to catch it, and then that'll be it for the years after we weren't injured. It was like, yeah, you wouldn't have been injured if your S&C would have been a lot better. You'd have kept your lot hydrated, and you lot wouldn't have pushed yourselves, because you're realizing you're trying to play a 22-game season, not a 16-game season. Like, think a little bit further ahead, guys. Like, that's what I think with Tom Brady's probably been the best thing. Go to Tampa Bay and be like, guys, do you understand we're trying to play more games than you've ever you guys have never played before? Like, and then when you talk about attitude and stuff, it's like that Kobe Bryant, LeBron, like, you lot have been playing the game a whole stupid way, and I'm now going to make you think of it a whole different way. It's been really interesting watching things like that, like seeing all different philosophies change and people going past and things that it wouldn't have happened if you had technology back in the day.
I think that's an interesting way to look at it, actually, because I mean, it's 100% true. Like, if you look at it from an endurance perspective, you've got to play more games in this season than you've ever played before. If you're going to go to a Super Bowl and then you're ultimately going to win it, you've got to be able to play that number of games. Forget your regular season 16 fixtures. You can't be good for 16 fixtures. You've got to look to be okay for your 16 fixtures, win enough to then go on and claim the ultimate prize. Like, no one cares if you win all 16 preseason,
but then
all 16
it gets even more. It gets even more, because then you've got team identity. And then if you look at Patriots' identity, was that outside zone fullback, like slam on sort of he would take either the 3-tech or take the outside back of that system. So that guy's going to be doing that 10 times a game for 22 games. So he's going to have to do that 220 times against 200 different types of stimulus. And then you understand like burnout and stuff. And it's like, why are the Patriots so good? Because they use their practice squad. They have, like, if you look at their rosters, they've always got like 9 or 10 DBs, because obviously they're going to be running the most. So they rotate them in the most. So even practice and stuff, they're keeping guys a lot of fresh. Like, it's a lot of it. I'm trying to understand like how they keep people minutes wise with basketball, like how you try and keep the level the highest, but there's no drop off. But then you then look at it with basketball, sometimes how they use like money, like they got their best money on one player and they have a lot of like half a star players and 1 10-star, or then you got a lot of 3s and then you got 1 5. It's like, how do you get the best dynamic without it dropping off, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I'm assuming, if you watched the baseball film Moneyball.
Yeah, I watched all of that stuff. I'm all into stats and trying to work out like all kinds of stuff like that. Try and think of how the best thing we can do, stuff like that. Like I look at it for Moneyball, like so for Jason Scott's defense. And one of those things I like is like you play a lot half of half. So try and find people that can do two jobs, but really it's not they're doing half a job, but really they're doing two. They don't understand that they could do this in one part and this in the other. Like in baseball, look at it. If you had a pitcher that could throw it left-handed and right-handed, you then has that guy's dynamic for the whole day. You don't know if he's going to throw left or right. So then it's already got 5% of him off his head because he's never seen that ball thrown that way. So I'm very much like, what have they never seen before? Well, that's half of it. Because if they've never seen it, well, you got a chance of it working because it's like fresh. Like it's like when you play youth and you see the first time you see like an outside jet sweep, and like I've never seen that guy run from that position there before. Who's getting the ball? And then oh my god, he scored because you've never seen it. So you're kind of stuck thinking, what do I do? Like, yeah.
How long, or do you think we will ever see a dual-handed quarterback? So someone that can throw left or right. Do you think, and if it was possible, if someone did do it, would it be worth it? Would it have value to it? What do you think?
Oh, okay. It works two ways, doesn't it? Because it depends on. Okay, it works if you're on the scramble. Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it? If you're on the scramble, because if someone's trying to get you, you know, if I got all the ball to here, I could get it to here and throw it, and it wouldn't be a problem. Or the same thing there. But if you stood in a pocket, it has no difference whatsoever, does it? It doesn't matter if he's left-handed or right-handed. He throws it 70 yards. Who cared how it come out of his hand? It went 70 yards. Like if it was like for adjustment stuff, it would work. Like even if it like. If there was some sort of way that you could have, like, it's like kicking, it makes sense, left footed and right footed, because obviously if you saw one hash line wasn't as kept as well as the other, and you thought, well, I could make it better for the left foot or right foot, or like positioning on the field, like in rugby. So like when you see a fullback on like England or whatever, you get a left footed guy, so he always kicks it to that side of the field, and then you get one that could kick it there. So then they don't know where the ball's going to come. So that sort of stuff, yeah. But I think it's almost like a wasted sort of skill for us. If it's baseball, yeah. If it's basketball, yeah. But for football, it's like saying it doesn't really work. Do you know what I mean? I can see it work some part, but not completely.
Yeah,
it's a good question because it's interesting about like how quickly can we adapt to being as good as left and right, like how like being a total athlete. It's like you get it in football. What do they want? Why is Ronaldo better than Messi? Well, because he can score with both feet. Messi, well, his right foot's a bit of spaghetti. Like his left foot, he can do whatever he wants. But it's like things like that. Yeah. No. What other questions you got? Go on. Sorry.
I think it comes down to you fear the man who practices one kick 10,000 times.
Yep. Yeah.
10,000 once. I think.
Yeah, the Kobe Bryant one. Yeah. You gave me 24 hours to top down a tree. I'll spend 22 hours sharpening the sword or sharpening the axe or whatever. Yeah, because then it's that whole practice it one times, but I've done it in 100 different variations. I get different stimulus. Like, yeah, it's those things are important. Really important. I think for when you're new to this sport, we need to chuck you in the deep end and see if you'll swim, because well, when the whistle's blown, I can't tell that other guy on the other team to stop. I can't like you've got to really. You've got to do that with people a lot of the time, and sometimes it is, can they do it and they can't. You see it in the NFL, you see it in all sports. Can they do it? Can they not? And that's probably the thrill of it. A lot of it in management, isn't it? Like, can he pull it off? I'm not sure, but I reckon he can. And then he does, and you feel great. If he don't, it's, I never thought it. So yeah, that's a good point.
So how have you managed over the last 12 months in terms of looking after yourself? Like, what have you been up to physically? Mentally?
Physically.
Have you kept yourself sane as well?
Sane. Okay. Sane. It's quite interesting. I think a lot of it it's decluttering your brain. You could do it with your body, like you just exercise. You get angry, you just exercise or whatever. Go for a walk or whatever. Like we talk about, I've been a nutcase. I did 4:30 in the morning runs just to do it for the sake of it. Like when it was terrible, it's horrible weather, and I was like, well, this is the worst time we've probably had the whole year. It's the worst weather as possible. I'll just go run the worst time possible, because it's like if I can train myself to deal with the worst situation possible, every situation that I come in front of me doesn't bother me whatsoever. Like, then go a little bit into the sports psyche of it. So where I live in Kent, we obviously a lot of Battle of Britain stuff. So we have a lot of like Spitfires and stuff like that. So we got a memorial, and let's be honest, it's 660 meters pure vertical like run. Absolutely horrible. Don't understand why I do it, but I do it. I did it every day for 2 weeks at 4:30 in the morning, just because it was conditioning. So then when it come out the rest of the year, no matter what I was given to me, I know, no, I'm all right. I could do whatever. Like, football practice don't mean nothing to me, because I got up at 4 o'clock, did something that was the worst thing I could possibly do. Because then we got to understand, when you do things like that, it's like, well, I can't go back down. I've got to go up, because once I'm up, I've got to, when I come down, it's easier. So it's a lot of like just sharpening your sort of mental thinking on it, and then trying to run during the day. I don't like it. I don't like things like that. So I tried and I watched a lot of philosophy, a lot of people, like just different outlooks on life. Like, a funny one was Russell Brown. He was a good guy for sort of breathing techniques. He's got a lot of good stuff for how you clear your head. So how you like take all your thoughts and you hold them all on a thread at all times. And when you like breathe, you let all of it out. But then when it comes back to you, it's a lot easier to take it, to interpret it. A lot of mindfulness stuff, a lot of understanding downtime. Like, I speak to a lot of like older generation in my family that have got background in the armies, and be like, how do you deal with downtime? How do you deal with getting ready to do something and then being told no? How do you like understand when to bring it up and bring it down? So that I did a lot of that, and that helped a lot, because it's understanding, always being prepared, but then always being prepared to be let down, but not being upset at it. Like, because you sort of die hard when you understand in the army. You don't care whatever it is, when that thing goes, you don't care what years you're going to be prepared to go into. You just, yeah, whatever, ready, yes sir, whatever. Like, that's been a lot of, I think it's been really important. No, you just try and keep yourself occupied, reading, a lot of football stuff. When as our team, I started this podcast because I was trying to keep all of our guys in tune, trying to keep us talking about football, trying to keep sort of energy together and stuff, and then try and build it on and on and on. And then some of it was actually asking some of these people I've been wanting to speak to for years, because I've never been on conventions, I never got a chance to, because of where I live, ask the questions I'd always wanted to ask. And a lot of it, like stuff like that, and that obviously motivated me more to get back into sport, because I never asked these people these things, which was cool, which was good. But yeah, I think it's a very long answer, but I thought I was like, yeah.
I think there's some very interesting things there. Like,
yeah, go on. We'll break it down bit by bit.
So obviously you said Russell Brand has probably been one of the guys.
Yeah.
Russell Brand, yeah. As you listen to, who else like kind of came up in that bracket? Because obviously he's quite insightful.
I looked at who's that other guy? Jordan Peterson. I looked at him, but then what he looks at a lot of like hierarchical understanding, like where you fit in the food chain, like where is your destination, like that. But that kind of, you can get lost in that, and then you end up don't going anywhere, because like what then I would then find Jordan Peterson. Then I went into Dan Penner, and then Dan Penner was he sold me on a really good point about self-improvement. He's like, it's the biggest con that you could ever have, because you could get so stuck in it that you never actually improve. So what you got to understand with self-improvement, it comes down to 3 words: just do it. Because once you're doing it, it doesn't matter, because I know there's a few topics we're talking about, like once you just do it and you try and stay at that decibel, try and stay at that vibration, try and stay at that level, everything comes at you. But then the hardest thing is sustaining that. A lot of that is sustaining it, because you can't, like, as I said, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning every day, you've got to have a reason. You've got to have a reason, because if you can't justify it to yourself, you can't sell it to anyone. Like, I'm a lot of like, I can't tell someone to do something if I wouldn't do it myself. Yeah. I'm very much about accountability. Like, if I wouldn't do it, or if I haven't done it, I'd never ask anyone to do it, because I don't find that fair. Because if I couldn't tell you my interpretation of it, I don't think I'm teaching a good point. Because if you did it and it went wrong, or something drastic happened to me, that'd be on me. So I want to make sure I've dipped my feet in the water first before I tell you, jump in. Like, that's something I've touched on a lot, is understanding business of when to do things, when not to, when to slow it down, when to speed it up. That's kind of how I got into it. Yeah.
That's quite interesting because I think obviously I myself have also looked at a lot of Jordan Peterson's work,
Yeah.
and obviously he's got tons and tons of videos on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I think it seems to divide a lot of opinion. I'm not too sure how, because I think he talks a lot of sense. Maybe some of the sense doesn't particularly resonate.
Biblical. It's very prehistoric, and it brings it back a lot of like, look at this person in King Arthur or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like things like that. He said it was like when you have three people looking for the pinnacle of the hierarchical. This thing, because I remember, because I've repeated it. It's like when you have three people wanting to reach on their goal at the highest point of their position, it'll be the best thing in the world. So that's like when you look at it like Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Well, it's getting the blessing from your father or your family to do it, yourself being blessed to do it, and then the direction of being in the right place, the right frame of mind. So a lot of stuff I look at with religious belief is just take the word God and just put me or I. A lot of that is really good self-talk. A lot of that is really good affirmation. Like that's what I think with religion. A lot of it is, it's got to understand it for yourself. Like a lot of it is, what do you believe? If the book helps you go, yeah, that's what I should do. Well, you want to be like God because you want to be the best version of yourself. You want to be helping your family. You want to be helping your county, your country, the world. You don't want to just keep it here. You want to go further and further and further. Like, I don't understand why people have a message and keep it here. And it's like, well, it's really good. Get it out as much as you can.
Yeah, that's godlike, isn't it?
Yeah, like that's what I'm like. I know I've been a bit of a pain in the backside. Like when I message any coach anytime, like, what can you do when? I don't care. Like, I'll happily work around you. I'll do like what is like it's sort of goal setting and stuff has been quite funny for the podcast. Okay, I'll only do 2 a week. I'll only record 2. First week in, I did 15, and then it was like, and then it was like, right, okay, what's the next thing I could do? Okay, three a day would make 7. Okay, and then 21. Okay, 21 episodes talking about football. Could I do more? Yeah, I could definitely talk about football more than that. But then, what else do you have time for? It's things like that of understanding when to pull it back, when to keep it going. It's been really, it's interesting because the world coming back normal so slowly. You'll slowly know when to go through the gears as well. So a lot of it for training for people, we know that this day everyone's ready to go. So you want to be ready when that bell goes, you're in your best shape possible. You don't want to be like lackluster, but sometimes even if you ain't got, you're not in the best physical shape, if you're in the best mental shape, even if you go and you don't perform well, that's one there. Like even look at it for a lot of people for bodybuilding. What's the worst show for them? Their first show. But what's the best show for them? Their first one, because they decided to put all the effort in, strip down all that body fat, decide to put on a tiny shirt, pair of shorts, stand there and posing in a room full of people you've never met before. That's more progression there than the 5th time they won it when they did Mr. Olympia. Like all of those small things that people don't get with it, like with sports, like it creates small little tendencies that come from one sport and go to another, and it's really important that we do more of that. We don't just do one sport, we do more because there's loads of transferable skills. Like that's why I think like talking to yourself is interesting, because of obviously kicking. Like when I watched you kick, I was there for like 15 minutes like a kid. Like I've never seen this in my life. Then the first game I got told I could go to, I remember a whistle being blown. We got to swap ends. I went to, I think it was Max. Why we got to swap ends? Because Len will kick it over the field. We got to keep the ball. We only got 3 balls. And I was like, yeah, all right. And then I saw the kick and I was like, oh, okay, I understand. Right, okay. And then there's that joke of kickers and punters are peoples too. I'm like, yeah, I know they're people too, but I don't know many of them are. Like that's a lot of it. It's great to have someone like yourself deciding to do that, because if no one saw you do it, then it's like you don't understand how much of a pioneer it is to do it first. Like people, it's really, everyone gets hated on when they do it first, but the person that benefits best is the second person, because they've learned all the mistakes, learned all the good things, and that's like you're passing on knowledge, but you don't understand how much knowledge you're passing on because you never were delivering it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think would that be in Sheffield?
Yeah, it was a gold one. I can't remember.
Yeah, that'll be Sheffield. That because they got some trees and bushes at one end.
That was it. Yeah,
the ball went in there, it was gone.
Yeah,
So we did have to consistently change hands.
Yeah, remember that. That's like stuff to me. That was just like interesting to see. Like I've never seen that. Oh wow, okay. It's actually because obviously you see it on TV like a 20-yard field goal, 30-yard, 40-yard, whatever. But then you don't get to see it in real life because we don't do it. We haven't got a high school down the corner where they're doing that. So watching you would be the nearest thing I could see to it. And then it's like, oh right, okay. It shows it's achievable because I've seen you do it in front of me, which means I could tell someone you can do it. Why? Because I've seen him do it in front of me. So it's a lot of that. I'm one of those things with manifestation. Like if I've seen it, it's true. So that's I can believe that. If I can believe me, I can sell it to you because I've seen it. So I'm very good at that point in sports stuff. Like if you look at a skill that someone's done, well, I think someone else can do that. Like, why not? Well, you never gave it a go, so that's a lot of it. Like,
because the thing that always gets me about it, for me, obviously, it's normal. Like I've done it my entire life. I've always been kicking balls, and I've always been fascinated with and like got a real kick or a buzz. Like, pardon the pun, got a real kick out of just striking a ball well and just seeing it just kind of go on that trajectory and just get smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah,
I've just felt good about it, but I'm always amazed that people are amazed because to me, I just think that that's normal. I just think that's what everybody does or can do. And I remember my first outing into American football, I was kind of amazed that there weren't actually, even now, there still aren't that many kickers out there.
No, but then he was something, I can't remember, Nick Mellis, Coach Nick, he said something like you had the opportunity to go kick at Alabama, or I can't remember exactly what, this is a few years ago, but I remember there was something he said that he stuck where you kicked it at, and that was like, to me, was like, that's the point. You do it because you like it, and you don't, because you've done it to that so far, even at kicking it in front of a team or whatever, like, that's what you want. That's as far as you could go, even if you can't get any further. Like, if when you got other people looking at you, that, of course it's not going to bother you because you've done it a million times. But the thing that's so interesting is that it's like with golf, and I spoke to James Slack about it, is like it's such a high intense skill that people don't understand. Like it's like an electrical current. Like you don't have to do anything. So you keep calm. And then for 10 seconds, I need you to deal with 150% intensity, not from you, from everything else. Like you got to then deal with pressure. So you got to make sure you don't think of small things before, because I was talking to James about poise, because I've always played linebacker. We don't have poise. We're all nutcases. We don't care about anything. We're talking to the other team, telling them what they got to do. We don't have to sit there and go, ready, like, look, okay, have I got this here? Have I got this? The holder ready? Is it all of these small things that require a lot of intense effort? And then as soon as that kick's gone, you've got to then just switch off. It's like being a sniper almost. Like you got to be called in ready. You got 6 shots. You don't miss. Like we need you to hit every single one. It's like it's interesting because it is that whole get ready to go, but it's flicking the switch, but in a different way. It's if you understand what I mean, Len, it's so interesting, but we need to have more people do it, because otherwise I can't understand it. There's only people like yourself or like one of the brothers at the Warriors. How he steps and does his.
Oh yeah,
is it Ian? I think it's
Ian Jacket.
Yeah, even him
Jacket,
when he does his. Even when I stood there at practice and heard him go for his steps and how he looked at it, his momentum and all of those things, like. That was amazing in itself, because it's the same thing. It's like what you see in NFL, and you create a player, and then you go on kicker, and then you got 60 different kicking styles, and then it's which one do you like? But we don't have that because it's who's kicked for us before. Like no one's ever really done it at a skill like that in the UK, and it's slowly going to become bigger and bigger. But what I don't get is why we've never had anything happen in the UK as sort of. Okay, we're going to get good as a sport. What could we do that we definitely really easy to find? Footballers, rugby players. Okay, why haven't we got 15 guys in the NFL? This isn't nothing on like, it's just a hypothetical. Why could we do that? Well, because we have so many people from that age kicking and doing it all the time. And let's be honest, they've been kicking and they playing a sport at a different level to America, i.e. football, what we got in. Just take a free kick, just all the sort of things that we've grown up with watching, like David Beckham, or like all of the people we watch, like with technique and mechanics and stuff, like watching football, Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, all the different footballers. Pretty easy to take one of those guys' kicking techniques, apply that to kicking a football, like even goalkeepers. Like, why aren't we trying to do that for the NFL development program? That's just a question, not in a slating way, but it makes total sense to do it. Like, you could get a bunch of academy kids, rugby, football, whatever. They'd probably have a good old crack at it for the UK, because it'd be like an opportunity. Like, you take it to one of those camps, I 100% reckon you could have a good go at it. And it makes total sense, because it wouldn't be it's not like pressure for them, because it's just, oh, I've only got to kick it once. I've got to kick it past 4 guys and pass it and make sure I take it on the turn and do this. I've just got to stand there, kick it 40 yards. Oh, okay, I can do that. So it's like, I think we could possibly be going in that direction, because we've got the ability and we've got the people. So, but no.
Yeah. I mean, there's only 32 jobs available as well.
No, but I know that. It's why haven't we got any UK guys in the hat? Like, obviously we got the punter at Cleveland, but why haven't we got? There's more of them out there. There's some guys out there that are playing, kicking rugby balls or footballs, that don't even understand they got a leg. Like, yeah.
Oh, I'm working on it.
Yeah, no, of course you are. I wouldn't suspect you not to be. I know that if it's something that you definitely do, but I'm 100% support it, because it makes total sense.
So I think, go on.
No, you go. You go first.
So I was going to say that I think one of the things that you pretty much hit the nail on the head with it, in terms of the psychology around it. And, when you say just do it, like, the 3 easiest words when you put them together and you just go, well, how do you do it? Well, you just do it. The key to that I've found from kicking and whatever, you just don't think about it. As soon as, like, and for you, like yourself, when you're talking about getting up and going for a run up a horrendous hill at 4 a.m, as soon as you think about that, and as soon as you get into your head, right, okay, what am I going to do? Right, I'm going to do this. How am I going to feel about that? How am I going to feel when I get to the top? How am I going to feel halfway up? Well, the answer to that is you're going to feel absolutely horrendous. So the process of convincing yourself it's a good idea is going to start working against you, because you're thinking about it and you know that it's going to feel crap. Whereas if you just kind of like breathe, roll out of bed, off you go, like, empty your mind, go, just do it. And I think the same kind of applies for sport, or whenever you're performing any specific skill, like yourself, when you're talking about doing weightlifting, which we'll get into that, and the various other sports.
We'll do whatever. It's all good.
Whether it's kickers, quarterbacks, centre forwards, like whatever sport you play, if you've got a specific role or a specific job, get out of your head. Don't think, don't be analytical, just feel, like, do what comes naturally. If you can do those things, you'll be fine. Like, there's plenty of time to reflect and analyze afterwards and go, well, how did I feel?
Of course, that's what we do so good at as England, isn't it? It's what we're the best at. We're the best analysts in the world.
And you can talk about it till you're blue in the face, and you can actually reflect on your performance, your state of mind at that particular moment, and then you change it for next time. But when you're in the moment, you don't think about it. You've got to empty everything from the neck up, and just feel, go off. Feel.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So your background in sport, like, obviously, we played American football together. Like,
where did it start for me?
Where do we start? Yeah.
Okay. Well, so for me, I played. I think it's 2006 or 2007. Donovan McNabb. He was on the screen, on the Madden, and I used to go around my mates, and he used to always be that team, and he used to always run around in a circle and then throw it off his back foot for like 60. He used to always play one play. Hail Mary, he would just run around and just do Johnny Manziel with it. And I'd then start to try and understand it. And then my friend of mine who I went to private school, and then I went to public school. One of my friends who was at private school, we had a photo of him in American football pads. And I saw him on Facebook. I sent a message, where? ? And he said, here. And I went, how? And then I said, can I? And that was it. Literally, it was where? How can I get there? When? All right, see you then. And then I went, and I was like, right, I get it. But then I remember it stuck with me for years. I think for 12 weeks, I didn't have lowers. I had tracksuit bottoms, and it absolutely wound me up, because I didn't feel like I was part of it. And then I would just practice. I'd play and whatever. But the funniest thing is you got people being recruited to the NFL academy and stuff like this. Like we talk about a culture change in American football. My question was, right, okay, do you want to put someone in hospital, or do you want to run around like a fairy? I.e., you run around scoring touchdowns. Look at me. Look at me. Like, look at me. I'm Tinkerbell. And it was like, I think it's an easy sell for me. I knew what I wanted. Like, and then I went from there, and I just kind of stuck at it. Really, just watching every second. I would just study, and then I had the opportunity with unis. So I had Buckinghamshire, New, Loughborough, Bournemouth, Hertfordshire. Now, when I look at it now, if I had the choice, I could have gone to Loughborough and it would have been top level, and I'd had to work really hard to keep myself there. Or when I look at what I've done, I've had to do it brick by brick, do it the hard way, and actually build myself into the mentality of playing football the right way. So I went to B&U. First offense I was a part of was double wing. Like, and that was interesting because I never saw it. And then we were really good at it because we went to the semis. We went to Glasgow. Then obviously got involved in Tamworth, and then come back to finish my third year at uni. I was then playing guard, and so like my first year I was just playing linebacker at one, just as my only job. But in my third year I'm playing guard and outside linebacker in a rush scheme. That's a lot of effort, a lot of energy. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to moan about it. I did my job, and I'll always do my job. I'll never moan at it. If a coach makes me accountable to do something, I'm not going to moan. And then I come down to where I lived in Kent. I tried to redo my third year. I played a year there. Then found out my work wasn't marked. So then I had to sit out a year. So I went up to Kent, studied for a year, just understanding the system of how things work with Joe Walker and everything he did there. He was a tremendous guy, Joe, what he did at that organisation and what he did in Kent with everything in terms of helping an area that I had no idea. I'll be honest, like general understanding at schools and stuff, of genuine understanding of football, no one knew anything. And Joe come down and he really did change a lot of people's ideas and things. Like, for instance, Joe Christian, he was at one of our schools at Canterbury. He's then signed to Filton. He's playing in Bristol. And his Instagram title was £235. I remember him when he was in year 9, year 10. And now he's playing the football his best of his ability. What else? Then I went to the Warriors to see it and trialing because I was living in Kingston. I played a little bit for them. I played one game, trained up there, and then sort of you get in that period where, right, I need to understand what I'm doing because I can't play football 100%. If I can't play football 100%, I can't do it at all. I'm one of those people. I've got to be all in or all out, because if I do it like half, I'm then going to start doing it in my head. I'm going to start doing it in my body, and then it's got to this point now where COVID's happened and I've had a bit of time out from football, but I'm in the best mental state I've ever been in my entire life. So when it comes to football, it doesn't matter how big a goal is or whatever the thing is in front of me. It doesn't matter. As I said, I've already sharpened my brain to be up at 4 a.m. if I need to do it. So when it comes to goals for football, like I'm from Kent. I've come up all the way up to London. I've then gone to Tamworth, and then I've been a part of played up in Scotland, played all across the Midlands, played all across down the borders. I played in nearly every part of England I could possibly try, just to understand different cultures and how different people play football. If that's kind of answers the question. That's a long-winded answer, but I'll try and get it all out in one. And if there's bits you want to break off, I can break it off.
I was going to say, what have you found in terms of the differences from, the best organisations you've been in or the most?
Best organisations I've seen, I will say Tamworth in terms of organisation and how everything is kept in order, how you bring people in, how the locker room is, how the conversation, how you keep everyone up to date and everything. East Kilbride was just how I saw it when we went up and played them in Birmingham that one game when we had to have our things on our helmets. How they trained, how they spoke, how all their kit was, how they all did, how they played. London Warriors, just because I remember when I was 18, I got called up to something and Niall Scott Grant was there and he said, "This is just Warriors practice." And I was like, well, there you go. That's enough for me. I'm 18. And he's like, what was it? I mean, we didn't have to do the bench press when we were 17, 18, but he said, "How many times have you done it?" He said 19. And I don't know how old he was. He was definitely older than me, but he was ready for it before I was. Other organisations from the people I've spoken to, I definitely know Sussex Thunder are definitely people need to pay a lot more attention to what they're doing as a whole, like business structure in terms of keeping stability. Like if you look at some of the people they've had, like Rich Warsell, where's he? He's in America. Then Ian Ellis, he's been in America. He's understood all these things. He's taken all of these different parts from around. Like they're definitely high on sort of what I've paid attention to a lot of the time. Youth programs, I think the Blitz youth program is second to none in terms of what I'm hearing with what some of the younger guys like 19, 20 have said, what I had when I was at youth. Like, they've been prepared. It's like almost like army cadets. Like I'm understanding. Like they're almost treated, they're conditioned like cadets. And then as soon as they get put up the next bit and then they understand. And then I can definitely see with how they play. Like it's when they get to the first team, it's like, right, here's your rifle. You're ready to go now. You're ready to put on the understanding the sort of history, the heritage of it. That's sort of something I'd say are the best programs I've seen. But that's not to say I don't know any other programs. And I know obviously as I'm talking live on your show, if I don't know about it, I'm willing to understand it because I don't want to give an opinion. If I don't know, I'd rather have the conversation and then have the platform there, if that makes sense. But they're the teams I know, but anyone I don't, I do apologise, but I'm trying to get through a list and ask and answer, like, know more about everyone. So, because
I was going to say, I mean,
yeah,
there's a pretty big pool of all teams, coaches, athletes, guys who are doing things to a very high level, doing things very, very well, effectively, efficiently.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can't know them all.
Yeah,
that's a hell of a trick. But what do you think are some of the best traits that those successful teams embody? Like, what is it that makes them successful? What is it that they do so well?
Yeah, it's the best way. I think the best thing I've done is I've looked at when I asked a lot of these coaches, I've looked at like their background and understanding what their degrees are. When I say degrees, is obviously it's the profession you're going to look to do for the rest of your life, and a lot of it is being engineering, structural, sort of like Coach Hewitt. He genuinely opened my brain to a whole different idea because his background's in architecture, in sort of project. How do you want it to look like? What is the end goal? What is the structure you're building? How is it like form basis? A lot of it is the guys that have got engineering backgrounds or backgrounds in construction or anything like that. If they imply it into a business, then it's just building it brick by brick. And that's what I think has been the most important, is to have people whose brains are about engineering. Like if we're stopping at a gap, okay, what can we do to get past that? A lot of, I think, has been that sort of thing, is trying to keep things rolling at all times has been probably the biggest trait I'm taking from a lot of people. And also a lot of it has been keeping it simple. Like we could run off tackle, but we've got 12 different ways of doing it. But that's our like stuff like that. Instead of having 800 playbook, have 12 plays, but have them run 20 different ways. So like a lot of things like stuff like that. And that's what I think's been, I've found most important. And a lot of it is having the ability to understand in different coaches, like different personalities, and how the more diverse the personalities, it works better because you're getting all these different opinions in a pot. And what I think is important is like what Microsoft do is they have like an idea board. Don't care who, you got an idea, stick it on the board. Why? Because we don't know if it's important now, later, whatever. Like it's a good idea and it's a good thing to have. And that's something that I would say has been really good for what's happened with this podcast. Is a lot of us in Canterbury, is we've been taking that approach. Is what else can we do? How is a different way of looking at it? What don't we do very well? Okay, well, how can we? I think that's kind of, I want to answer that question and kind of wrap it up, as I'll go on and on and on about it. Like I'm like that, but yeah, that's sort of, I think, engineering, keeping it simple and just trying to keep the train on the track.
But do you think that's because, I mean, engineers typically, I know this is probably delving into some of the Jordan Peterson aspects as to why so many men are engineers, purely because the traits that are required for that role are typically, logical, clear-minded, very step-by-step, procedure orientated. You need all the data, you need all the information. Like if you want to be a statistician, there is no chance, absolutely no chance that I would be a statistician.
Yeah.
I haven't got, I don't have the right
Rubik's
psychological
cube, yeah,
makeup.
the Rubik's cube. You look at it like, yeah, I understand what you mean. Sometimes like you don't have someone who's like, oh look, it's a box, and then turn it upside down, see, look, it's a house, and then it's like things like that. A good question I've liked to have is I think this is a brilliant question, because this is my sort of idea in sports psych, and how like I'll get the immediate answer. It's a snowy day, you're on a bus going 100 miles an hour. It's going around a corner. Where are you on the bus? Like that, and then you go. Then it's things like, and then your answer, whatever answer you got, you're always going to be being told you're looking at it different. You're looking at it. You're not. Where are you looking at it? Are you looking at it right? Like,
I'm in the driver's seat.
Yeah, and then then there's the next question: why are you in the driver's seat? Why are you doing that in the snow? And why are you going 100 miles an hour? It's like his.
I'll tell you exactly why.
Yeah, go on.
I'm a reckless bastard that takes it and wants to get places quickly. That's why.
Yeah. But then if you look at it, like, you need those personalities to do that, because you got Baker Mayfield, like, sort of things like that. We're going to do this. We're going to do stuff like this. Like, another answer is, well, I'm in the driver's seat because I've seen that whoever was driving it wasn't doing very good. So what I'm going to do is take it to the next corner, bring it to a halt, and check on everyone. What's that? That's that, like, composure. Like, it's one of those questions. It's like an NFL question, and I think it's really good to, like when you have an interview for Microsoft and they'll ask you some off the wall question, like, where are you if you're and then you're like, oh, okay, because they're just trying to understand where's your head at. Like, if you don't, like, what is it for Elon Musk? If you don't have sort of an innovative mind, we won't really kind of look at you and go, yeah, okay, because you got to have ideas. If you're not going to come up with new ideas, we kind of just, you're a robot. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Because I think, for a successful organization, a successful team, like, you need a balance of all those different personality types. Like, if you had an entire team full of people like me, well, the entire thing would just crash and burn, because there's no one to bring a bit of stability and common sense to the party. Like, it's just reckless. Kind of just plow on ahead.
Of course, yeah.
And I think once you've got the different personality types involved, like, it's making sure that they all have the same buy-in and the same core values that the team kind of represents, and everyone can find their own way to represent it. Of course, at Tamworth, when you were there, was it ambitious, selfless, relentless?
It was that. It was that idea. Coach Hilton and the board. So when he was explaining, it was write your name on the board. This was before Jason come in and did the juice, but I understood that. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't there, but I understood it, because obviously I was a part of the groups, and I fully understood how, even if I'd only saw that, and obviously being a part of the organisation, how did it fit? Well, I understood it why that idea fit into that organisation, because it's right. Like, I've looked at another way. I've looked at going abroad for sport, and like American football especially, it's like joining the French Foreign Legion. You go into a different country, like you could go to Estonia, Armenia, Turkey, wherever. Div 3, Div 2 team, they have no idea about American football, but they're willing to learn from you. So then you're going to help learn what you're going to do. You're going to make a militia. You're going to give them identity, help them understand the weapons, how to clean the weapons, how to attack, how to defend, and stuff like that. Like, when we look at importing and stuff, like the guys we're sending over to these teams, well, if you look at like Glenn Tonga, well, the Polish league hadn't seen someone like him running the ball. They hadn't seen someone like David Zinian playing in the middle. Like, that's that. Why is that? It's because it's not available. So you have those sort of things that it show it that we need to do more of that. Like, that's what I think has been important. Like, for Tamworth, London is innovating and pushing guys to go abroad, but putting them in the best positions, because they're like, it's like sending off your kid to school, but you want your kid to have the best school possible. You want to make sure he's staying on his grades, but you got that issue of letting them, just leaving them be, because you want them to do well. Like Pat Daly, like how good Pat was. Like, you don't want anything to happen to these people, and obviously you don't want to panic, but you don't want to be that person. But then you end up, that's sort of my sort of answer. Well, we'll still keep spinning.
So exactly. So I think we're
talking about the philosophy for Tamworth, relentless. Oh, that was the last thing we said.
Yeah. I think what would you say goes into a successful individual athlete? Because obviously we've just approached the team aspect.
Yeah.
What is it that players themselves need to be aware of in terms of managing themselves?
A lot of it is you don't want to be a dog chasing his own tail. You want to know what you're doing. You want to know why. A lot of it for me, I think the most important thing is why. Why is that? Why, if, who, what, where, and why? Why is why important? Well, you're in the army. A guy tells you jump out of a building with no parachute. Why? Well, that question stops you jumping and dying. Like it makes you. It's the justification. You give me you sell me. You've got to sell it to me to understand what it is. Why have I got to do that? Because it's not because I've got to be willing to do this for something. I'm willing to do it for someone else because you've got to do it for your mate, you've got to do it for your teammate, then you've got to do it for the offense, then you've got to do it on special teams, then you've got to do it for your coaches. A lot of it is you've got to understand why you're doing it. You don't have to understand where you're going because that can just be directed. That's just like head down. If your head's down, well, obviously just bring your head up and just eyes up, look where you're going. A lot of it's that. And you've got to be self-critical, but you've got to understand when to just be easy on yourself. A lot of it is, I think for me, is being able to just switch off from football. Because my problem when I'm in football mode, I can't sleep. I can't do any of that. And James Slack said, he made a good point. He said, it's like running a marathon before you're even going to go play. Because you're up on your brain's going and thinking about all these things you can't control. And then you get there and half of it don't even happen. Like, what a fear acronym, false expectation appearing real. Well, a lot of it is it's a wave. A lot of like anxiety in sport is waves. Like in football, guy misses a penalty, messes up, he's all gone in his head. He's only got to score a tap in and he'll be all right. It's a lot of it is you've got to be able to shake it off as well. You've got to understand when it's you, when it's them, when it's your coach. You've got to have self-belief and understanding. Sometimes a coach could tell you to do something and you could go, yes, sir, I understand, but you could understand he's wrong, but you've got to know when to understand how to deliver that. And that comes with time as well, is how to delegate and talk to a coach when you're right and how to talk about it the right way. Like, but you've also got to understand your position. Like, you can't be the third string, like, DB, knowing you're never going to play a two and be like, coach, I think we've been running cover three completely stupid. That's going to get you laughed out of the room. But then if it's like, coach, on special teams, I see here, when they go to this formation, this is a bit of a struggle. What can I do to help? Or what could we change to help? That's a different delivery style and it's a different answer, like stuff like that. Like, that's something I think is important. And I think you just got to always have that picture, like with business, and they have the picture of like a holiday and a big house, and you got to always have that in your head as well. You got to have some goal that doesn't make any sense when you first started, but you got to always look at it, and it got to bring you. It kind of recenters you all the time. Like when you're low, why am I doing it? You just look to the wall, and it could be a family member, could be something, could be an animal, could be loads of different reasons as sort of a extrinsic reason to do it. But you got to have one reason that overrules all, that makes you go, yeah, this is why I'm doing it. Yeah, this is why I'm doing it. Like motivation. Like you always have that. Why do we watch motivational quotes? Because you want to get to that vibration that gets you up and going. But sometimes it's a bit difficult to get yourself going and doing that. Like as I'm touching on with running, that would bring a frequency out of me that there's no reason to be in me. But because I brought it out of me, I can kind of go in this sort of area. I think that those sort of things are important. A lot of it, you just got to have a willing attitude. You've got to be willing. You got to be willing to do anything. If you ain't willing to do anything, well, you're never going to go anywhere. You'll be stood still. And in American football, standing still gets you hurt. Like, doesn't matter what position. So, yeah.
That's so true. I think one of my first experiences of kicking was I kicked off. I can't remember the team we were playing against. It was probably the Yorkshire Rams or something like that. And normally, when you're returning a kick, there are key players who you aim to block.
Yeah, of course.
The kicker is never one of them. All right. And this team, I remember they specifically on multiple kickoffs, they consistently sent the same guy. And I remember literally just zigzagging with this guy chasing me. And then there was one all of a sudden, I relaxed. I could see that we'd made the tackle down the other end. I stopped playing, turned my back. Next thing, bang. I got absolutely drilled. I think I'm fairly, adamant it was illegal.
Yeah.
But you're dead right. You can't turn your back on things like that.
You can't do that. It is another point. We had, so I got into an argument with a coach, and I'm never going to, I completely understand why, because I'm holding myself accountable for what I did. But they were playing a team and they were punting, and the long snapper of the other team snapped the ball, and instead of doing anything else, he just took the face cage of the guy covering him, just kept swinging him around. I literally didn't care about my responsibility in the game because I'm like, safety, teammate, overrides everything. It's like I was a football player, but in that moment, that become a sort of alpha, adult. No, that's got to stop. And then then it led to a fight, and then it was like I got shouted at, and he said, "Why'd you do that?" I went, I don't care. That's my teammate. I'll do that any day of the week. I'm like, my personality, and I say about him more, is very much a bit Joey Barton. I do go close to the line. But when it's with my teammate, and if anyone's gave me a reason why, I don't care. I don't care. I'll do whatever in my body is necessary because I understand that I can see and I believe in you. If I believe in you, it doesn't matter about me. Whatever's necessary is necessary. You need someone to go in there, do that. Yeah, that's me. I'm exactly the guy you need because I don't think about it. I'll just do it. I don't care.
Did you start the fight?
No, the other guy started a fight with the other guy, and I just went to finish it because I thought, what is he doing with our teammate? Hang on.
Joined in.
Yeah, why? Because he shouldn't have. Well, okay, he did have a good few inches on him. Fair enough. I was thinking, well, we could lose. Yes, he's got a helmet, but then the other part is like, okay, he was a few inches shorter, but he didn't have the reach on him. So like when you're watching ice hockey, and you see it, and you see the guy that's clearly got a longer reach, and you see he's got hold of his shirt, and no matter how hard he's swinging, he can't get him, and it's like, well, he's hitting him every single time, and clearly the refs aren't exactly what they're gonna do. They're gonna pull him off him? No. Was it like something needs to be done? And I'm one of those guys that, well, no one's going to do anything, I'll do it. And I'm not bothered about getting told off or whatever. It'd be like, well, it's my teammate. I'm not going to let that happen. But then sometimes you get something like that. It's like in the film Lagoon. Obviously, it's a bit of a stupid story, but what do you need to get the energy back on the team? Sometimes a player needs to start a fight. Sometimes you need a challenge to go a little bit wrong, or you need that receiver to run that post, and the safety just going, no, I don't care about the ball. I need to just make sure he never runs that route again. You need things like that because you need that person who just doesn't play the game by the rules that makes the rules change the whole dynamic, if that makes sense.
So I've got a couple of questions. I just don't want to get distracted or forget about the questions. So first question, it's just going back to what you said a few minutes ago about understand as an athlete, you need to understand when to go easy on yourself. Yeah. When to maybe be a little bit harder on yourself. How do you distinguish between those two moments?
You've got to understand the opponent. If the opponent's yourself, you've got to understand the goal. Okay, you're too small. Well, you're not going to be able to put all that weight on in a day. You got to understand, some of those things are a little bit look at the... Go on. Sorry,
I was going to say, so it's self-talk, the way you actually...
a lot of it, you got to self-talk, because why self-talk? Who's the person you talk to the most? Yourself, regardless, all day.
That's why I drive myself mental.
Yeah, why do you have notes on your phone? Where is most of the notes for? Who are the notes for? Yourself. Why have you got 25 notes on your phone on stuff? Because it's for you. It has to be yourself. Because if you rely on that extrinsic person, it disappears. It will disappear in one way or another, or it won't be necessary. It will, the time or some event will make it be that you don't need it. So then what's the point?
How would you suggest that people change their self-talk? So obviously from going from almost because I know I've been there myself, where I've been incredibly harsh on myself after performance, and you almost bully yourself in a way with your analysis or your reflection.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah,
I know the way I speak to myself now is very, very different.
Oh yeah.
How would you explain or describe that
Okay.
self-talk process and
So
a
self-talk,
positive example
yeah.
versus a negative one.
Okay, positive example, whole words. So I might is like no, I can, I will, I must. Like words like that. They're very action-based words. Like if they're positive, I might do well. No, I must do well. Because if you say, even just saying it, just look at the energy and how you say those words. If you self-talk, I must do this, I must do this, I must do this. 10 minutes later, I must do well. It comes out in your sentences. I can. No, you are. You can. Can's a word that gets you can get caught up. I can do that. Well, no, talk with it with a bit more energy, because it's like it's like when you see it in for the Patriots, and you got like a guy, they ask like Edelman to throw a ball one time. Can you throw this pass? Yes. It needs to be a yes, doesn't it? It needs to not be a might. No, it needs to be a yes. It needs to be an affirmative word. Bad talk is just words that kind of a lot of it is body language, like for yourself, like just standing up straight, keeping your head high, all of those sort of things they teach you, like gentleman based stuff, like make sure your chin's in, how you look, how you speak.
Are we allowed to say gentlemanly? Is that a politically correct term these days?
I understand what you mean. Okay.
No, I know. 100%. I'm just being stupid.
Oh no, I know you're saying. I know. Yeah, it's one of those. We're in that space. We have to say that. No, it's. I wouldn't say it's not elegance. It's not. No, James Slack. You've got to have James on the show because he had a good one. He said about you got to be able to speak without speaking. Your energy, you've got to be like that. And what do I mean by that? Well, you got a guy in a 3-piece suit. He looks like that. You know, he's when he stretches your hand, you go like that. Or you got like just how you are with the people. Hello, how you doing? How are you? Like first asking them, being the first person to ask how the other person is, like things like that. Like you, by being first, you're always like showing as you're being given, and like they're positive. Other self-talk, I just try and stay out of. You just try and stay out of like holding on to it. A lot of it I've learned now is holding on to it, because when you're in American football, you hold on to that third down play. Like I remember one time I got scored on. So I said to one game, I said, I want to move outside because we need to keep the tackle in. But then I knew I might have to cover a receiver. I was the captain of the team. I got beat on an out and up for a touchdown. I went, my bad. I get that. They tried to run it for the 2 point. I took it for a 12-yard loss. Like shrugged it off, like straight away. My bad. I know. I've got to hold myself accountable because I'm the captain. I know I've got to do something right here. So I took that as a responsibility. Like, I shrugged that off because I knew the pedestal. I can't scream and shout because it's like being a headmaster. You could be annoyed at you could have a million things happen as a headmaster, but you can't lose it at that year 8 who's just decided you don't want to go into class and scream and shout, can you? Because you still got to be up there. You got to think of that. You got to always hold yourself to a level, but know when you're off that level. It's understanding, like, when you're down, just go outside, move. What is it? Motion creates emotion, or just get yourself moving. Stuff like that is important for self-talk. A lot of it.
Well, I think what you said there in terms of speak without speaking, your posture, your body language, your physical energy says more about you than anything that comes out of your mouth. I think you probably looking back at what the greats do. Like if you were to look at, if we take probably the best sporting examples of anyone who's ever lived, you go, right, okay, Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, debate it if you want, Tom Brady, you got Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi. You look at the way those people walk around, how they handle themselves. Every single thing about them, every single thing they do screams 100% certainty around what they're going to do next. Like there's no doubt, is there? It's just streamlined focus.
And then what you also get with them is how they'll do things for people that they have no necessary need to as well. Just unspoken kindness as well is a big part of it. Is you feel low, you do something gratuitous for someone else, 100 million %, seeing someone else smile because of yourself, no matter what that is. Doesn't care if it's helping you, it's helping someone you already have, your family member, helping a stranger, whatever. When you're low, you just ask someone, is there anything I can do to help them? 100%, you're going to feel better because you're receiving positive energy.
Yeah.
So when you receive it, it's like anything. It's like you take it in, it will then go into where it needs to be, and then suddenly you feel better. A lot of that, like, there was a story on Messi. He went to a beach. Some guy took a photo with him, and he said to some other people they can't use it. The other people tried, so then they sued the kid, and Messi paid the court fees. It was like 350k. Something stupid like that. It was like Messi saw this kid could have been taken advantage of with this photo, and he said to these people, if they do, I will sue you. So then they sued on behalf of this kid and then paid the law fees and said, don't worry about it, it's not a problem. Like, he knew this kid could have been like taken advantage of, and instead of doing so, like, instead of whatever, no, I'm actually going to make sure nothing happens. Like things like that, like Tom Brady and what he does with money, and how is it almost sold vegan to people without even doing it. Just understanding how he puts his food in his body. Like, how many people would have probably changed their dieting system because of him? Like, and it's not just him; it's all these other guys. Like, a lot of it does come off the field, and it just on the field, I think.
Yeah, I think it's probably a key lesson for a lot of people right now. While we're in a bit of a lull at the moment, obviously we're waiting for things to reopen.
Yeah,
I think the gyms in just over a month and various other stuff.
Yeah.
Before we get back to normal, I know there's a lot of people that need something to look forward to. If you want to feel good about yourself right now, go and do something to help someone. Either random act of kindness for a stranger, just pay forward for a cup of coffee in Costa or wherever.
What's karma? Karma's getting the energy you put out, coming back. Think about it. Not even just go science. Positive. What am I going to get back? Positive. There you go. There's not a lot of it's not. It doesn't. It's really simple. Break it down, like stuff like that. Like it doesn't become difficult when you can understand. Like you just got to do it for other reasons. It's very hard to understand. There's got to be a bigger purpose than yourself, because it's your ego, and you got to destroy the ego. It's really hard to get that out of your head because you want to be X. You want to be this super version of yourself, and then you realize everything you wanted, you got it. You don't actually want it in the end because you realize the reputation you got is nothing. I thought it should go like this, and it hasn't. Okay, so now I've got to basically destroy everything I worked so hard for because I did it the wrong way, wrong intention. No.
When it comes to sort of pre-game, I know we spoke about this a little bit before. It's something that came up in the episode of Different Opinion, but sort of mindset around playing, participating in sport, whether it's American football, even individual sport, athletics, developing mindset, going through pre-game rituals or pre-competition rituals, getting in that state of flow and channeling all that energy into a positive aspect where ultimately you come out top performance, everything goes smoothly, you didn't have to think about it. What can people do to get into that mindset?
You gotta be okay, I'll get that. It's you gotta do your homework. You gotta be like so prepared. Like, what was it? Someone said on chess, goods are 2 steps ahead, greats are 5, the best are 15 steps ahead. You got to be so prepared for the stimulus and the test that you got because you're so comfortable in what it is you're doing. Like, there's no issues. You got to just have done all your homework. When I said, what do I mean by that? Mental preparation, social preparation. What's social preparation? Well, checking all the other guys on your team are on the same page. Like, you don't want to be the only guy that's ready and prepared and not everyone else is. You want to check that the planning's all good. So, like, it's just like, okay, we got the good planning. Everyone's okay. Everyone's on the right terms. Okay. Food. So it's the petrol you're putting in the tank, making sure it's all of that. The oil, making sure it's the good liquids, all of that stuff. And then what you got to also understand is that with pre-game rituals, a lot of people is patterns. It's pattern recognition and understanding a pattern that they find comfortable to them. But then what you got to understand that some people can be very left with it. Be very left with that pre-game ritual, but then it works for them. You got to understand when you I found it quite funny to think of how many podcast could be made about locker rooms, general locker rooms. You could talk about locker room stories, as in pre-game, post-game, all these different things of what's the weirdest pre-game you've ever seen or whatever. But then you see that, and then what's the performance? Well, I remember he did this. Like I remember that, like I don't like saying this story, but I know there's a few guys that they had so much bad nerves, they would drink. They'd be playing drunk, right? Because it's nerves. I understand. Terrible, terrible, terrible thing to do. But you get it with functioning, for anyone with a functioning problem. I can't stress, I can't deal with it. I can't. But they've had 2 beers, suddenly I'm all right. I'm all good. You see it with darts. They used to have it where guys would play better the more drunk they get. So what would you then do with darts? Would you take the beer out? No, you wouldn't, because you wouldn't have everyone in the crowd screaming. But then I've seen guys do that and have like a 200-yard rushing performance and then have like an 8 tackling and 2 interceptions in a game. But then he understood that he can't do that every time. Got to stop doing that. He's going to have to relax. He's going to have to understand that what is the pressure you're putting on yourself? Like, you got to come to that point and go, no, I can't do this. This has got to stop. You got to also understand that bit as well. But like, even what I'm saying, it's like it's a functioning problem. Percy Harvin, look, he never played. He played every game he had, even the Super Bowl high. What was it? Josh Gordon. He would go out before a game, drink a bottle of Jack Daniels, and smoke some weed, and then get back in drive half an hour, drink a whole bottle, smoke some weed, drive back to the stadium, have some mints, give like 50 quid to the guy, and just go back in the locker room and go ball out. It's crazy to think about it, but they're the people, like it's like Gaza. I think a lot of it is like, you look at it for Paul Gascoigne. Why I talk about him very highly is if he could play football 24 hours, he'd be better than Pele and better than Maradona, because he could do that all day, every day, and it wouldn't be a problem. What was the biggest problem for him? Not being on the pitch. Like, you need to keep the people have got to know when the energy needs to be left on the pitch and it needs to be taken away. You've got to understand the preparation of the game. If it don't come out right, there's always the next one. But you've got to have that release of tension always. You've got to understand when to let go. Always got to understand when to let go to sort of round back the point, if kind of trying to round it all off.
Yeah, I think that's actually thinking about that, because obviously Tiger Woods, we know what kind of got him ticking for all those years before that all came to light, came out of the darkness. And then, I think there's Michael Jordan. I think he had his little leanings towards whether you want to refer to it as gambling or he's just competitive. Competition addicts. Like there's always something. Like I tend to find with the people who are obsessed with winning, there's always some kind of
vice.
Yeah, there's something to lean on that does like take that pressure off, and
it's close to giving them the same feeling as they can until they can get it back. Yeah, I understand.
And in some cases, obviously, it's not always kind of seen in a positive light by society for various reasons. But I mean, obviously, we're not encouraging people to go out and drink a bottle of JD before a game.
You've got to understand that there's got to be a better way of understanding what you're doing with yourself. That's really the point. It's like but you ain't gonna be able to do that if you get good at this sport, mate. You can't do this every game. Like there's a different way of that. I think what you understand what I'm trying to say, Len, is approaching that topic with a different answer. Like, could you do this in the NFL 16 games in a row? No, you can't. Could you keep everyone in this building not knowing that you were doing that? No, you can't. So what's going to have to give? You're going to have to give.
Yeah.
So I think that's the sort of, I think we're kind of getting on, is you can't do that all the time. We know that, but sometimes people have to make that mistake and deal with it, and then know, right, I've got to make a change. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. Like,
knowledge of yourself, routine, patterns, like you touched on before. Like you've got to have a willing attitude. When you see it as you want to be willing to change, willing to improve.
Yeah, you've got to be open. You have to be open, because if you're closed, well, it's easy with anything. When it's closed, it's rubbish. No one wants to talk to you. You don't really get a lot of stimulus given to you because you're not talking to anyone, and no one finds you to be approachable because the vibration you're giving does not fit the group. no matter how hard, like you can have you have it in every locker room, the quiet guys. I understand that, no issue whatsoever. They know when to come up and know when to come down. But you can't have that solid kind of Neanderthal, yeah, okay, bye. You can't be like that nowadays because there's too much communication, inter-team communication, WhatsApp, Messenger, Zoom. You can't just be silent the whole time. A personality has to come out at some point. And that's what I think, as I say about Tamworth, that's what I think you're very accommodating of. We know your personality will come out. We know the real you will come out. It's just time. Like, don't worry. We know we're not going to have the perfect project first time round. It's coming and it'll come. Don't worry. And that's what I think you get with teams as well. Like, I remember the special teams coach of the Warriors. So I went down, I made a tackle. Next time round, I got caught up with the second guy. And then he said, well, you need to give him a move or otherwise you're going to get stuck there. And I said, thank you. He said, it's all right. If you were perfect, I wouldn't have a job. And I was like, right, now I'll die for you. Because I was like, right, that's all I need. Literally, that's all it takes for me. You give me something like that, it's like, okay, I understand the journey. Right, I'll do anything, yeah.
Well, I think that's just a fundamental to coaching. Like as a coach, you have to help your athletes, or like in my case, my clients. You have to help people understand that you aren't going to be perfect. I mean, yes, let's aim for it, but you aren't going to be perfect. It's okay to screw it up. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay
Screwing up
to
the good parts.
Yeah, exactly.
Up the good parts. I'm learning. I've fully unlearned the adult part now. That screwing up has been the best. Like, I don't like the Gary V. You got to eat the dirt. Well, come on, mate. No one wants to eat the dirt. No one's going to want to eat dirt to get to the best point. You got to know when it's crap. You got to know it's all right, but it's a wave. You got to understand everything is a wave. It's gonna go. It's gonna come back. It might, but what you want to come back is positive. I think that's kind of a little bit I want to just add.
Yeah. No, I like that perspective. I think you have to be willing to do the work. You have to be willing to get kind of like down and dirty and in the weeds with it. But ultimately, you're looking forwards, and
you don't want to be in there the whole time, innit? Yeah.
You've got to come out the other side at some point.
If you don't come out, what are you doing? Yeah, like you got to. Yeah.
So where are you at the moment when it comes to football preparation?
Me, I am.
Are you coaching? Are you going to be playing?
So currently myself, I'm coaching. We're coaching down at the Christchurch Chargers. We've done a lot of organisational preparations. Done a whole massive revamp of what we're doing. We've got this podcast that we've started up. That what we're going to do is we're going to give it to. We're going to have a separate part for the team. The team is going to talk about announcements. We're going to have our own sort of part on it. We're going to have a coach's corner. So what we're going to have leading up to the season is we're going to try and find different coaches to talk about different principles, just to help give that extra bit of knowledge to guys on teams, because it's like learning styles. Not everyone on our team actually could learn the best from all of us coaches. So sometimes finding an external guy that makes everyone listen. Like a lot of stuff like that we're doing. Playing wise, I'm wanting the gyms to be back to normal so I can actually fully attack football in a way I've been wanting to for a while. But a lot of it, as I said, is you get in this sort of system in football. You're trying to go up, but we're still in the UK. It's not clear, and it ain't been clear since the 80s because it hasn't stayed here since the 80s. So for myself, I'm dying to get back to football, but when I say take football seriously, I never didn't take it seriously in terms of my attitude, but I think it was, it's when you're young, isn't it? You're 17, 18, 19, 20, like, yeah, okay, cool, I'll do that any day of the week, but I need to understand why. Now I really know why I need football, because it's a release and it's a switch. And if I don't have that switch, I don't flick that switch, where am I going to put it? Because if I put it all into weightlifting, well, I'm just then going to be going for PBs and stuff. And then what's that going to do? That's just going to deteriorate over a period of time. I'm not going to be able to keep that up. With football, you have a goal because it's like having 8 fights that set you up for the big one. Like you have these different opponents, the sparring partners, and then you're working your way up. Like, I want to get back into football. One, to help show the guys on our team, like, when I say seriousness about football, is mentality's got to be right. if I'm talking about high about mentality to you lot and I can still play, well, I should go out and play and put that mentality out on the pitch. But I'm willing to do that no matter where it is. I've never cared about what team I play for. It's always been about just, it's got to fit. I know when it fits for me and when it doesn't a lot of time for football. When I'm not right, I know I'm not right, because I'm one of those guys that just, I know. If I know, no, it's not working, nothing's going to change my mind, because I've got to be all in. So I think for me, it's getting back into football, coaching, helping bring up this area that we've got in Canterbury and Kent, and helping it, and playing myself, and hopefully just becoming a football player that I've always wanted to be. Because I think with COVID, it's made me want it even more. And I think even myself talking about it, it should hopefully people should get that, hear that vibration, like start revving that engine, guys, because we can be in a better position in the UK for football now, because everyone's been sat waiting to play football, and we're going to really look at everything that's been happening with BAFA. Look at all the stuff that's been going on. Like, COVID's actually been good for BAFA across everything, because stimulating conversations has been the most important thing, because that's been the biggest disconnect in the last 10 years. Like, not everyone knows everyone. No one's talking to everyone. Not everyone's well represented. Like, it's the more people talk, the more we do more of this, the better we're going to have this year, I think, personally. But also, I wanted to say thank you, Dan, for what you're doing on this show. And thank you for bringing me on.
That's an absolute pleasure. It's been awesome to have you on. And
I know we've been talking a long time, yeah.
Yeah. Where can just before I let you go, where can people find and listen to?
So our podcast currently, we're on Anchor, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on all platforms. We're going to be working on doing video soon. But to find us, we're on Instagram, Facebook. We're working on LinkedIn. So anyone that comes on our show, I do want to try and help out LinkedIn in terms of if you're in an industry and you do X, I do want the people, your industry heads who you work for, want to understand that when you say, oh, I'm not working on the weekend because I've got football, they understand you're truly doing something real. You're not just mucking around, if that makes sense. So I do want to try and help that get disconnect, but that's the best place to find me. But anyone, just let me know if anyone wants to get in contact with me. I'm happy to help or do whatever.
And then the name of the podcast,
the Stables Podcast, a little bit in as the name of it. Different horses for different courses. What do I mean by that is every horse has been trained differently. Not every horse knows what destination it's going, but ironically, we're all running the same race. We're all going around the same circle, but I may have been at Kempton, you may have been at the Ascot, I may have only been at my local ground, but by God's chance, I'm at Kings Hill and we're both in the same race. So I want to learn as best as I can from you and so forth. That's kind of our message, is that everyone's wanting to be a thoroughbred in the sport, but we need to know all the different skills of how you train and so forth, because not everyone comes down here, if that makes sense.
That's it, absolutely. So there you go, guys. Make sure you jump on that, give it a listen.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks again for coming on, Dylan.
No, thank you very much, Len. So I take it that is it, yeah.
So there you go, ladies and gents. That concludes our chat with Dylan. Hopefully there's been loads of little pointers that you can pick up there when it comes to sport, performance, mindset, even just life, just good principles through that. So make sure you go and give his podcast a listen as well. Tune into that. I'm sure I'll be appearing on there at some point. And whilst I'm at it, whilst I'm thinking about this, me and my brother are starting our charity challenge for the Pulmonary Fibrosis Trust. We're starting that this Friday, which will be, the 5th of March? Yeah, Friday the 5th of March. We're starting the first run on that at 8 p.m. and we are going to be running 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. So that does include running at midnight, 4 in the morning on a couple of occasions. So if you want to donate to that, we're exceptionally grateful for the people who have donated already. Thank you very, very much. Keep them coming in. And if you want to follow it along, obviously, as usual, you can follow along through our Facebook page. We'll be doing some live videos and a couple of other little bits in between, just so you can see the deterioration and the the pain in our faces as we go along and get towards that Sunday night finishing point. So stay in touch with us on that. If you've got any more questions, if there's anything else you would like to ask us about at any point, feel free to shoot us a message. But until next time, that is it from me. Lenko out.